Lord, show me right from wrong. Give me light, make me strong. I know the road is long. Make me strong.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Ta'ala Alayhi Wasallam, as we greet you from the studios of the Islamic Broadcasting Network, IBN, here in my Caribbean island of Trinidad. And it is Yawmul Ahad, the first day of the week. A Roman Catholic Pope in Rome decided to give it the name of Sunday, the day for the worship of the sun. It is Yawmul Ahad. Last night was the night of the full moon. In Urdu, they say Chaudhwi ka Chand, the full moon. And the full moon, of course, is when the 14th day of the lunar month has come to an end, and it's the 15th night. So we are today on the 15th day of Shawwal, the month which follows the month of Ramadan. And we thank Allah for blessed Ramadan. Last week we had no signs of the times lecture. We did not resume last week because IBN was on holiday. So we have our first lecture resuming signs of the time today after Ramadan. And we'll have another one next week, and that'll be the last before I travel. I have to travel to Geneva in Switzerland, where I used to be a student for 5 years, so it's like a second home to me. On the 29th of July, which is going to be the first Yawm al-Sabt in the month of Zulqa'dah, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to have a seminar in Geneva at the Salsabil Halal restaurant at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the topic is related to our present topic and the signs of the times, namely an Islamic response to Dajjal's electronic and digital monetary system. That's our topic. On the 29th of July, if you have not as yet, you don't have to register for the seminar, no, but we're going to have a dinner after the seminar. The seminar will be in the banquet hall of the restaurant, and the dinner will be in the dining hall. But you have to register for the seminar. It's going to be 38 Swiss francs per person for the course. And if you go to my website, imranhosein.org, you will find there the email address for the restaurant where you can register for the seminar. We'll try to organize a second seminar in middle of September, inshallah. That's not as yet confirmed. A second seminar in Geneva in the middle of September. I will be away I have next week's lecture, and then I travel, and I'll be away, inshallah, from Trinidad for 2 months. So there'll be no IBN Signs of the Times lectures. But this one and next week you will follow. It's going to be live on the IBN website, ibntt.com. It's going to come at the bottom of the screen. And you could also go to YouTube, IBN Master, for live streaming of this lecture today, and next week, inshallah. When I return from my travels, inshallah, then we will resume the Signs of the Times lectures. I ask of you, last night I lectured on an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world at the Barakpur Islamic Center. And we have a guest with us here today from Egypt who traveled to Trinidad to meet with me, and he was there last night with me in the Barakpur Islamic Center for that lecture from Egypt. And we welcome you to Trinidad. And we had a very large gathering last night in Barakpur Islamic Center where we had the retreat in 2009. But I could only complete about 2/3 of the topic last night until 8:30, and I had to leave out about 1/3. So maybe sometime, inshallah, I'll be able to resume my topic of Gog and Magog. I hope it'll be on YouTube, inshallah, soon, last night's lecture. I also did a lecture from my home about a week ago, maybe, which is now on YouTube, and it's generating a lot of interest, in which I offered some analysis on Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the 80 flags of the hadith of Akhir Zaman. So do please go to my YouTube channel and view that lecture. Also, finally, if you can kindly raise your hands and make dua for me. Every time I travel, it's dangerous, yes. It's a dangerous world out there. And for people who preach Islam the way I do, standing up against the oppressor, it's even more dangerous. This time when I travel, I'm going to make an effort to enter into France. I'm going to make an effort to enter into Britain, which I've not done before. So it's going to be dangerous. So do please remember me in your dua. We return today to the subject of money. And I had taken you from the body of Pharaoh being discovered in 1897. I had taken you to the birth of the Zionist movement. And then I took you to the birth of the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States in 1913. And I took you to Bretton Woods. All my previous lectures, please go through them. And we saw an effort in 1944 in Bretton Woods. We saw an effort that was very sinister and very dangerous to move the world away from valid money to bogus money, and to do it in a surreptitious way, in an underhand way, so that people would not see the head of the snake. To turn away from valid money to bogus money means that you are corrupting the market. It will no longer be a free and a fair market. Not only did they turn away from valid money to bogus money, but what they did at Bretton Woods was to create an international monetary fund which prohibited the use of valid money. prohibited what Allah had made halal, because the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund prohibit the use of dinar and dirham as money. Where is the world of Islamic scholarship? Where are my distinguished and learned brothers, the scholars of Islam? If you make haram what Allah made halal, even a schoolboy knows that that is shirk, the one sin that Allah will never forgive. And if the people follow in that, then they also become a part of the shirk, blasphemy. Some people say, no, shirk is not blasphemy, it's heresy. And that's what they did in 1944. In moving away from valid money, which is gold and silver coins, and turning to bogus money. Now, I've already covered this subject. I've already explained how they use a fig leaf to cover their shame. And that was that the US dollar was redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce, but only for central banks, not for people. I don't have to repeat all of that I've already completed. What I did not say to you so far was that this was a transitory effort. This was a stage that they had in order to hide the head of the snake. They had to give us this interim, that's the correct word, this interim monetary system, where one currency, the US dollar, would have a fig leaf of integrity in that it would still be redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce. Like you write a check and you can cash the check, therefore that check is valid. It's not haram, it's halal, once you can cash it. So you can cash the US dollar. The problem was that you and I are using the US dollar in the market, but we can't cash it for gold. Only a central bank can do that. And this was therefore, all the rest of the paper money in the world had not even a fig leaf to hide their shame, including the rupee of the so-called Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Where is the Islam? If your money doesn't have a fig leaf to cover its abominable shame, and you call yourself an Islamic Republic, have you no sense? When will you wake up? I am now 75 years of age. And I have been shouting and shouting and shouting for 20-something years now, even more than that. But there are some who just will not hear. They can't hear. And others who defy me and who say I'm wrong and I'm misguided, and they're looking forward to the day when they hear the news. Imran Hosein is dead. He's gone. Now we can move on with our lives. No. No, when I'm gone and I'm in my grave, my students will follow me. And I pray that they'll rise higher than I ever rose in knowledge. So they'll come after you. Oh yes, inshallah, they'll come after you. And they will have no fear to proclaim the truth. My students will continue after. Imran Hosein is not important. When I'm gone, all I ask of you is to make dua for me and then continue the work. That is more important. That is more important. So all the rest of the paper money in the world, they don't even have a fig leaf to cover their shame. They are just paper. But only the US dollar has some semblance of integrity because it was redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce. But that was just a fig leaf, because in 1971, when France, under the able and astute and wise leadership of Charles de Gaulle, General Charles de Gaulle, we commend him for his integrity, when he in 1966 challenged that bogus monetary system. Yes, and that is why up to this day France honors de Gaulle. There's never been a politician in France since de Gaulle. They're just schoolboys. The last one, of course, being the smallest schoolboy of all. Charles de Gaulle was the last leader that France ever had. And France did what no Muslim country ever did, except for Indonesia under Ahmad Sukarno. May Allah have mercy on his soul. Ahmad Sukarno. He took Indonesia out of the IMF. That's what he did. Nobody else dares to do that today. Hugo Chavez attempted. May Allah have mercy on the soul of Hugo Chavez. A worthy leader. I wish we had leaders like him in the world of Islam. Yes? But Hugo Chavez found it too difficult to take Venezuela out of the IMF. So all the paper money in the world, including the Pakistani rupee, they're just like that. They're just paper. They cannot be redeemed in gold. And Charles de Gaulle challenged this system, which was manifestly unfair advantages to the United States. You're making money out of nothing because you're printing paper and you don't have the gold to back the paper. That is what de Gaulle saw. The Vietnam War was a smoke screen to allow the United States to print and print and print paper. Yes. The Vietnam War was a smoke screen to allow the monetary system, the bogus monetary system, to flower. When de Gaulle challenged it, then they removed him from power. But the French government continued, and in 1971, the US decided it's too dangerous, redeeming US dollars for gold because the French were coming again and again. And so Bretton Woods collapsed in 1971. Bretton Woods collapsed in 1971. The US government announced from Camp David that although they were obliged under international law to redeem US dollars for gold, at $35 an ounce, they are now they gave their word. They said, we don't have to keep our word. The United States of America said, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep our word. Is that a Christian country? Do you have even a semblance of a link with Jesus? Nabi Isa alayhi salam, you give your word and you can't keep your word. Yeah? That's the foundation of the religious way of life. So what is this United States of America? It's a caricature of a religious state. It doesn't have any religion. When you give your word and you can't keep your word, you're following Satan. You are a satanic force, not a religious force. I know the American ambassador is going to be very uncomfortable when he hears these things from me, but Mr. Ambassador, these are facts. This is the truth. If you have not done your homework, I have done my homework, Mr. Ambassador. So they gave their word and they broke their word. So the United States US dollar is no longer redeemable in gold. And all the rest of the paper money now have the same status as the US dollar. They're all bogus. Yeah. What I did not say to you is that this was a transition. This was a temporary phase that they did in Bretton Woods because they wanted to hide the face of the snake. The actual snake was they wanted one currency for all of mankind. If you look at the travaux préparatoires of the conference, you will see where I think it was the British delegate John Maynard Keynes. Scholars of international monetary economics will probably be able to confirm. I think it was John Maynard Keynes who he put the trial balloon that this is what we want to do. We want one currency for all of mankind because our goal is world government. And in order to rule the whole world, we need one currency. That is the heart of world government. To rule the whole world, you need one money. Are you listening to me? But they decided that's too dangerous. If we come out with one currency for all of mankind in 1944, people are going to rebel. People are going to open their eyes. And they're going to say, no, 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 we reject this. So they had to have an interim stage with many, many, many different currencies. And wait for some time before they could do away with all these currencies and come with one currency for all of mankind, which is where we are now. One currency for all of mankind, and of course it'll have to be digital money or electronic money. But what happened to the US dollar of 1971? September 1971 was when France came to the United States with, I think it was $3 billion US dollars, and said, Uncle Sam, we want the gold. And Richard Nixon decided it's too dangerous. No, this bank will bust. If we give the money to France, somebody else is going to ask for it. We don't have the gold. So they reneged on their obligations under international law in 1971, and the US dollar then went into no man's land from 1971 to 1973. But then in 1973, they pulled something out of the bag. And that qualified as the most important event in history. In 1973, there was the Arab-Israeli war, and with usual deception, they were on both sides of the war, because on one side of the war, they were supporting Israel, and on the other side of the war, they had their schoolboy, the Soviet Union. They created him, they gave him food to eat, the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was a Zionist plant, and if the Russian doesn't understand that, I'm telling it to you. And the Soviet Union was on the side of the Arabs, but the Soviet Union was also in their Zionist camp. So they were on both sides of the war in 1973, and they took the war to a draw. But King Faisal, rahimahullah, of Saudi Arabia, had his heart in the right place, although he didn't have much brains, but he had his heart in the right place. And he was very angry about what happened in 1967. So King Faisal had warned that he was going to impose an oil boycott on the United States. And as soon as the war started in 1973, October 73, he imposed the oil boycott on the United States. And the Arab oil-producing countries supported him. And there were lines for oil, for buying gasoline in the United States 1 mile long. Motor cars lining up for gasoline. This was 1973, 74. And the Zionists knew what an oil boycott, a Saudi oil boycott would provoke. They knew it, and they wanted it. The price of oil at that time was $3 a barrel. That's right. And when the oil boycott was imposed, the Arab oil boycott was imposed, it eventually rose from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel, an increase of 400%. And the US dollar fell by 400%, because by 1973, the US dollar had fallen from $35 an ounce in 71 to 40. Why is money falling in value? Did you ever ask that question? The trade union movement in Trinidad and Tobago, have you ever asked that question? Why is money falling? Bogus money falls in value. Valid money does not fall in value. No, bogus money falls in value, then it's called inflation. They didn't teach you that subject, eh? So from $40 a barrel $40 for 1 ounce of gold, 40 US, it fell to 160. It fell by 400%. And the Arabs, the Arab oil producing countries suddenly found themselves richer, wealthier, with money flowing into their banks, into their coffers by 400%. It was in 1974 that the most important event in contemporary history occurred. And Saudi Arabia played the crucial role in that event. What is it? What was it? I now return to a hadith which is in Sahih Bukhari, and my methodology differs from the Salafi methodology, and I am not with any boxing gloves against the Salafi, and I pray that the Salafi will open his eyes and begin to understand, okay? So no boxing gloves. But before I turn to that hadith in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974, I have to turn to another event in the life of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam is in the city of Medina. And Medina is located in that part of the Arabian Peninsula which is called Hijaz. Hijaz. There is another part of the Arabian Peninsula to the east of Hijaz which is called Najd. And these two comprise the bulk of the Arabian Peninsula, Hijaz and Najd. Hijaz to the west, and in Hijaz is located Mecca and Medina, and Najd to the east. And it is in Najd that you have all the oil. So Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam speaks, and he praises our Sham and our Yemen. Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina, fi Shamina. Oh Allah, place blessings for us in our Sham, our Sham. And in our Yemen, if you don't like that, you could go and jump in the sea. Because he's saying it is our Sham. And he's saying it is our Yemen. And that's what you are doing today. You're waging war on Yemen and you're waging war on Sham. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Waging war on innocent Yemen. Waging war on innocent Sham and sending millions of people as refugees. Destroying Yemen. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. What more do I have to say to you? Shame on you one more time. So he says, Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina wa Yemenina. Oh Allah, place blessings for us in our Sham, our Sham, our Sham. And in our Yemen, our Yemen, our Yemen, he identifies us with Yemen and he identifies us with Sham. And you waging war on Yemen and you waging war on Sham. Shame on you one more time. But then the people ask him, Oh Allah's Messenger, what about our Najd, our Najd, our Najd? Which Najd could he be talking about? Which Najd could they be talking about when they ask about our Najd? This is the difference between valid scholarship and bogus scholarship. This is what demarcates valid Islamic scholarship from bogus scholars of Islam. Bogus scholars of Islam. Bogus scholars of Islam. Because the valid Islamic scholarship, even a schoolboy will recognize that when they ask about our Najd, they're asking about the Najd which is next door to Hijaz, not some nudge which is in Chicago, in Timbuktu, or they say no in Iraq. Bogus scholars you are. Shame on you. That's right. Will people follow you with your bogus scholarship, or will they follow us? You think they have peanuts in their heads to accept this bogus nonsense? That our nudge has to be in Iraq? Or our nudge is in Timbuktu or in Chicago? No. Even an elementary scholarship, even schoolboys would know when they spoke about our nudge, they're talking about nudge which is next door to Hijaz, our nudge. What did he reply? He was silent. And then they repeated the question, O Messenger of Allah, what about our nudge, meaning nudge which is next door? Not like some donkeys declare nudge in Iraq. Then he said, pointing to nudge, which is next door, not pointing to Chicago or Timbuktu or Iraq, pointing to nudge which is next door to Hijaz. He said about nudge, that from nudge there will be fitna, that which will be tests and trials. And the biggest trial of all that come from nudge is this monetary system. Fitna and earthquakes. And he pointed to nudge and he says, Qarnu Shaitan. The age or the epoch or the people of Satan are coming from nudge. Those were his words. And the Saudi leadership, the Saudi Wahhabi leadership. You don't like the name Wahhabi, you don't like my using the name Wahhabi, go find somebody else to listen, leave me alone. They came from Najd. That's where they came from. The ones who control power in Saudi Arabia today, they came from Najd. Everybody knows that. So having explained this hadith and pointing to the role, the sinister role of those who control power in Saudi Arabia, we now turn to a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974. The Salafi methodology, and I am not with any boxing gloves, I'm not disrespecting the Salafi, no, I'm talking scholarly work. The Salafi methodology is that if, and they're very cautious because of this, that if there is a verse of the Qur'an or there is a hadith which has not been interpreted, ta'wil. We're talking not about tafsir, we're talking about ta'wil, interpretation. Tafsir is explanation, ta'wil is interpretation. And it has not been interpreted by Allah and His Messenger and by the Aslaf, the early Muslims. Then they say, no one has the authority to interpret. None. So if there is a hadith that Dajjal is going to come on a donkey, and the donkey will fly as fast as the clouds, and the donkey will have his wings stretched out wide, a donkey with wings, a donkey with wings, and a donkey flying as fast as the clouds. Since this is a hadith, since this is a prophecy of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ concerning Dajjal, and since it has not been interpreted, the Salafi insist that they must wait for the flying donkey. The flying donkey. Well, I have here in my studio, I have my visitor from Egypt, and he just came to Trinidad on that flying donkey. Oh yes. We have a different methodology. We say that this is religious symbolism, and we say that we have the right to seek to interpret religious symbolism, but when we offer an interpretation, we always say, Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. We can be right, we can be wrong, but we have the right to seek to interpret, to understand. So we say the flying donkey is the aircraft. And Dajjal will master the skies because of the aircraft. And the wars will be waged now on who has power to control the sky, not the sea anymore, the sky. That is Dajjal's power, the sky. the drones, the satellites, and so on. And so, the hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974. He said that the river Euphrates, which is in Iraq, will uncover a mountain of gold. And people will fight for that gold. And 99 out of every 100 who fight for that gold will be killed. And each one will say, I am the one who will survive. So this will be an uncertain war. No one will be able to enter that war with certainty that they will be victorious. What a war. It will be a unique war in history, like no other war ever before in history, which kills 99% of all combatants. But he said that the Muslims, the believers, must not touch that goal. A war which kills 99% of all combatants has to qualify as the Great War. But Christian eschatology refers to it as Armageddon. In Islam, we know of it as the Malhama. And in order for us to be firmly grounded in this war, we go first to the Qur'an and then to the Hadith. Is there any reference to this war in the Qur'an? Yes, there are. We want to turn to only one verse of the Qur'an, only one at this time. There are others. I gave a lecture in, where was it? In Mauritius, yes, on nuclear war. And that lecture should be on my YouTube channel on an Islamic view of nuclear weapons, I believe, was the topic. And in that lecture, I quoted several verses of the Qur'an pertaining to nuclear war. So please check out that lecture. But this verse is in Suratul Isra of the Qur'an, Surah number 17. And Allah says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. He says, وَإِمْ مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نحن مهلكوها قبل يوم القيامة أو معذبوها عذابا شديدا كان ذلك في الكتاب مسطورا. None will escape. Every town and every city will be destroyed before the last day, before the end of the world. This event will take place before the end of the world. قبل يوم القيامة. And those towns and cities which escape destruction will be punished with great punishment. And this is something inscribed in the book. This will come to pass. That has to be the Great War. Oh yes. Where every town and every city is destroyed, and those which do not face destruction will face terrible punishment. That has to be the Great War. So there is a reference in the Qur'an to the Great War. And the Great War can only have this kind of destruction if there are weapons of mass destruction used in that war. Because conventional weapons will not kill 99% of all combatants. It has to be nuclear weapons. There are those who have been trying far more vigorously than is comfortable for me to persuade me that there are no nuclear weapons. Well, what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a dream? Of course there are nuclear weapons, and there are thermonuclear weapons, and there are other weapons of mass destruction we probably don't know about. And we are now on the verge of that nuclear war, in which 99% of all combatants will be killed. Why? Because they're fighting for the mountain of gold. The Salafi says that since Allah and His Messenger and the Aslaf never offered an interpretation or a ta'wil of this prophecy, we are obliged to wait for a mountain of the metal to come out from underneath the river. That is Salafi Islam. And I don't have any boxing gloves. I am not being disrespectful to you because there are many Salafi who are my students. We say no. We say this is religious symbolism. And I have offered an interpretation of this prophecy of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. I offered it several years ago, and the reason why I could offer this interpretation was because Allah, in His kindness, allowed me to have an education that the normal scholar of Islam does not have. I studied international relations for 1 year, a postgraduate course in international relations at the Institute of International Relations of the University of the West Indies, because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Trinidad and Tobago said to me, we would like to have you as an officer, but we want you to go back and do this course. So I went to the University of the West Indies, the Institute of International Relations, and I studied there for 1 year. And among the subjects that I studied, in addition to international politics and international law and the history of international relations, the diplomacy and so on, was international economics. In fact, my little sister came after me and she's done a PhD in international economics. So I often consult with her. But in addition to studying international economics, I had to study international monetary economics. And when I went into the classroom, I took the Qur'an with me, of course, in my heart. And because my teacher, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, had trained me how to study the Qur'an, I was able to use the Qur'an to recognize that this was bogus, this money was bogus. Yes. And then I came first in the class after 1 year. And they were all looking down at me, the Pakistani graduate. And this was a graduate from the Sorbonne, and this was a graduate from the London School of Economics. And these were graduates from Canadian and American universities. And this poor fellow was a Pakistani graduate. So they were all looking down at me. But at the end of the year, I came first in the exams because of the Qur'an. And then I got a scholarship to go to Geneva to study at the Graduate Institute of International Studies. And over there, I had so many quarrels with my teacher teaching me international economics, monetary economics in particular, that eventually he said to me, Mr. Hosein, you don't have to attend my class, you know. Meaning, I don't want you in my class. Just write this exam at the end of the year. So I couldn't attend his class. And at the end of the year, I wrote the exam and I passed the exam. But I already was aware that this system was bogus. Because of this training that I had in international relations, in international monetary economics, in international trade and development, in international law, in international politics, in diplomacy, in the history of international affairs, because of this training I had, which the scholars of Islam do not have, I was able to understand the hadith, that a mountain of gold is going to come out from underneath the river. It came out in 1974. And I offered my interpretation, and about, I don't know, 95% of those who have listened have accepted my view. And that little 5 or 10% out there with boxing gloves hitting me from every single direction realize that they're fighting a losing battle, because people are not persuaded by their view that you have to wait for a mounting of the metal to come out from underneath the river. What happened in 1974 was that Henry Kissinger waited until the price of oil had risen from $3 a barrel to 12. And the Arab oil-producing countries are all very happy. King Faisal was very happy. And Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in Pakistan was very happy that the money is coming now, the money is coming. And Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and one of the last leaders that Pakistan had was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The rest are all schoolboys. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Faisal teamed up to form an alliance, that this money which is now coming in must be put to the use of the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. That was the brilliance of Bhutto. It was Benazir's father. He did many wicked things. You don't have to remind me of that. He did many wicked things, but this was good, what he did, to bring that alliance of Pakistan with Saudi Arabia. And then they pulled off the Lahore Islamic Summit Conference in February of 1974. But I don't have the time today to take you into that glorious history. What Henry Kissinger did was to go to Riyadh. He was Secretary of State of the United States of America. Nixon is still the president. And to offer a deal to Saudi Arabia. And because Faisal rahimahullah, despite having a good heart, he had only peanuts in his head. That's right. When you have only peanuts in your head, you can be taken for a ride. That's what happened in Syria. That's what happened in Libya. They were taken for a ride with peanuts in their head, waging a bogus jihad in Syria, waging a bogus jihad in Libya, as a consequence of which NATO now controls Libya. Henry Kissinger said to Faisal, what you're getting is peanuts. You're going to get much more. All that you have to do is make an agreement with us that you will sell oil for only US dollars. And if you do that, you will see how much more money you'll get. And Kissinger was, of course, correct. And Faisal fell for it. And then Faisal declared that Saudi Arabia will sell their oil for only US dollars. Oh, come on, Faisal. Malik Faisal, rahimahullah. What nonsense is this? Where is your knowledge? Where is your sense? Have you no sense? Did the religion of Islam not teach you anything, Faisal? Even if I come with gold dinar, I can't buy your oil. Dinar, which is halal, which is in the Qur'an, which is in the Sunnah. Have you no sense that only with US dollars I can buy oil? Don't you realize, Faisal, that you are giving the US dollar a new lease of life because it is no longer backed by gold? It's no longer redeemable in gold. When Faisal agreed to that no one can buy oil except with US dollars, and then the rest of the Arab oil-producing countries agreed to it. And then OPEC was born in 1974. I think it was 74. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And then OPEC, all the oil-producing countries, oil-exporting countries in the world, all come together in this organization and, excuse my language, like a bunch of jackasses, they all agreed that they will sell oil for only US dollars. And so the US dollar was transformed in 1974 into a petrodollar. And the monetary system survived. And an ocean of oil, listen to me carefully, my brother who is a Salafi. Please listen to me. Imran Hosein is not waging war on you. Imran Hosein respects your scholarship. Imran Hosein is simply saying to you that your methodology is wrong. Please listen to me, because tomorrow it will be too late. An ocean of oil underneath the river Euphrates, in 1974, an ocean of oil underneath the river began to function as a mountain of gold. The petrodollar monetary system. This is the fulfillment of the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The reason why I was able to offer this interpretation was because after studying Islam, I went on to study international relations, and the scholars of Islam don't have that specialized knowledge that Allah allowed me. That's the only reason why I was able to offer this interpretation. But there is a big war which is coming. And that big war is because of this monetary system, which came from Qarn Shaitan, from Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is the leader of the pack. Yes, may Allah forgive King Faisal, we like him, but that does not mean that he has to be excused for having only peanuts in his head. He violated the Sharia. He has said that even if I come with gold dinar, I cannot buy your oil, which is haram, haram, haram. Where is your sense, Faisal? May Allah have mercy on him and forgive him. But this is Qarn Shaitan. This is the people, the age of Shaitan, the generation of Shaitan, who have brought into being this monetary system, the petrodollar monetary system, so that an ocean of oil underneath the river is now functioning as a mountain of gold, exactly as the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in Sahih Bukhari. We have just a few minutes left and I'm running out of time. I'll have to continue the subject next week. We have no time for phone calls today, sorry about that. There are many Hindus who are listening to the Signs of the Time lectures. There are many Christians who are listening to the Signs of the Time lectures. And you are our brothers. Yes, you are our brothers. We have respect for Hinduism. Yes, I have respect for Hinduism. I have respect for Christianity. I'm not here with boxing gloves against you. I want to build an alliance to defend the religious way of life. The big war is coming. And that big war is because of the mountain of gold. Russia is leading the challenge. And Russia is supported by China. And with Russia and China, there is South Africa, there is Brazil, and there is India. Although India seems now to have jumped into the camp of Israel. BRICS it is called, and BRICS is the cause of the nuclear war which is coming. BRICS is a challenge to the petrodollar monetary system. The Prophet said that they will fight for that mountain of gold, and that is the war that is coming. And when Saudi Arabia amasses all the Sunni countries, the schoolboys who lead the world of Sunni Islam, to form an alliance which they say it's against terrorism, but it's against Iran. Oh yes, it's against Iran. They will not invite Iran, no. And this alliance, once it is sealed, and you take a Pakistani former chief of staff of the armed forces and make him the commander-in-chief of this Sunni alliance, I don't know, about 40 states. And then you invite Donald Trump. Then you invite Donald Trump to Saudi Arabia to meet with all of them and to dance with all of them with a sword in his hand. It's comic, isn't it? It's comic. No, it's not comic, it's serious. What they're doing is trying to forge an alliance between NATO and the schoolboys who rule over the Sunni world of Islam. That's what they're doing. And I believe that the master plan, led by Qarn Shaitan, Saudi Arabia, led by Qarn Shaitan, Saudi Arabia, led by Qarn Shaitan, Saudi Arabia, is for all of them to land their troops in the north of Syria. Qatar doesn't want to be a part of that. No, because Qatar is too exposed. It's a little peninsula jutting out into the sea facing Iran. And when the big war starts, Qatar will be finished within 5 minutes. That's why Qatar is resisting. Qatar knows Saudi Arabia better than Saudi Arabia knows Saudi Arabia, because both Qatar and Saudi Arabia have been at the forefront of terrorism, funding and arming and training and providing all the weapons and so on for the terrorists who are waging their bogus jihad. So Qatar and Saudi Arabia are sisters. The difference, however, is Qatar feels exposed. Qatar is afraid of that big war that's coming. But Saudi Arabia is not afraid. No, Saudi Arabia is led by a reckless little schoolboy now who is taking Saudi Arabia to ruins. So now the plan appears to me, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. The plan appears to me for all of these Sunni, so-called Sunni states, including that bogus Islamic state called Pakistan, for all of them to land their troops in the north of Syria to say, we are fighting terrorism. Who are you fooling? And then NATO will also try and land all their troops there. And I think this is what the Prophet ﷺ was speaking of when he speaks about Rome, meaning Rome of the West, landing under 80 flags. If this happens, then you remember this lecture and the one which is on YouTube, my interpretation. This is going to lead to the Great War, not something in Ukraine and not something in Korea, but exactly as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has prophesied. This is going to lead to the Great War, the war which is being fought for the mountain of gold. This is our interpretation. So you have our interpretation and you have the interpretation or the response of Salafi Islam. It's for you to choose who is correct and who is sleeping. You are the ones who will have to choose. I am not here with boxing gloves against the Salafi. This is a learned discussion and it should be pursued in a respectful way because we are dealing with knowledge, yes. And let me repeat that I have Salafis who are my students, yes. If this big war is to take place, it can take place at any time, how do we respond to it? What do we do? We end with this statement of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, who said that the Muslims or the believers must not touch that goal. Meaning that we must resist the electronic and monetary system which is coming. How do we resist it? What should be response? That will be my topic for Geneva. I leave you now. May Allah bless you. If you turn to the Qur'an and you turn to the scriptures and you turn to Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, and with integrity in your heart, you seek now to understand the world today and to respond to it appropriately. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.